Good morning, evening, or afternoon and evening to our listeners across the globe, and welcome to In 12D. We're season 4, episode 36, and in the studio with me, I have my lovely not assistant, but a co-host. I apologize, Susie Vaughn from Ireland.
Hey,
Good evening,
Ramsey.
Susie.
Yeah, good morning to you. Good evening to me. I'm delighted to be here in Ireland, trying to stay warm as you're trying to stay cool over there. It's ironic, isn't it?
Yes.
Anyway, this is a great episode. This is a repeat guest. I'm so excited that we have the lovely James Mallins, the Light of Albion, who's located there at the base of the mountain in Wales, and he's coming back to us to share more of his thoughts and his ideas. We've called this session "Who Am I?" The Eternal Question. So, James, who are you? Who are you now since we spoke to you last year? It was about a year since we met, actually, on the podcast, I think.
Yeah, it has been, and I just want to say thank you so much for having me back. And I totally join you, Susie, in the trying to stay warm, hence the full winter gear in this room. Yeah, so I'm still at the base of El Ruitfa, Snowdon, so I'm very blessed to be here. It's a very magical landscape, fitting in with the question, who am I? There's many mythologies around here, many connections to King Arthur, etc., and just all of the things that I feel people resonate with in regards to the goodness and decency that is represented by it. So who am I? I am simply an individual who is seeking to help facilitate or aid the restoration of our beautiful world back to goodness, decency, and abundance. And that's really where I'm at the minute. That's my focus on every level, and so just excited to be back on the show with you guys.
It's a lot, isn't it? It's a lot when we even ask that question, who am I? We were talking about this before we went live. It's a part of a self-inquiry practice that we do when we meditate with the primordial sound mantra practice. And you ask those questions like, who am I? What do I want? What is my purpose here? How can I help and serve not just myself, but others, and kind of finding that flow and finding, I suppose, meaning and in life. And that it starts to make some kind of sense. And, how did you get to the foothills of Snowdonia, James? What brought you there?
All the magic you could imagine. It was pure synchronicity. My dear brother Lucas, so the first farm that we were on, I mean, this idea of who am I, the eternal question, I really feel that it links in with the concept of what is sovereignty in our world, right? So what is, who am I? Why am I here? And what am I as well? And the reason why I say that is because when we think of ourselves as people and where we find ourselves, where we were born, what we've experienced through life leading to this moment, there's still that question, of where we're going and what we want and what we desire. Like you said, that self-inquiry. So we set out going to plots of land, and we were helping to set up forest gardens, etc., and trying to get the ball rolling. Things didn't quite work out on a couple of occasions. And so my brother Lucas managed, out of pure, wonderful and beautiful synchronicity, to get this house. So it's literally every morning when I go out with my tea or my herbal tea or whatever, I see the mountain right in front of me. So it is really a place of magic here. There's a lot of energy. It's a really strong location, and we're blessed to be here. So yeah, that's where we've been. I mean, I've been here now for about 2.5 years, just over 2 years with Lucas, and so we're seeking to once again acquire land. But in the meantime, we're just working on all of the elements and components that come with this future that's inevitable. So yeah.
Let's go back to the who I am question, because it's intriguing. People, I think, most of us believe we know who we are, but sometimes I think we do have doubts. And we don't really know who we are. So, in your experience or meditation, who are you?
Mm.
Not only you, but who am I also, and how can we get to the answer of that?
Mm. So it's a beautiful question, and for me it really there's a big picture of this, and there's a more micro refined picture. And what I found is when we're searching for truth, when I was in school, I was in a Church of England school. I'm not Christian or anything like that, but I went to church. So there were people there seeking to educate me on who I am and the truth of our world, and this idea of God or a God or an energy or an intelligence or an entity. And so through the process of, as you say, meditation, through questioning, I look for things that are concrete truth, that are undeniable. And to me, nature is one of them. Now, my physical body is an amalgamation of an incomprehensible amount of materials, systems, networks, and it's all working to give me life, to give me a vessel of which my spirit, the thing that's behind James, the thing that is behind my name, the thing that I work with to have an experience in physical reality. It's miraculous. My body is miraculous. It is truly, beautifully, and wonderfully miraculous. And that goes for every human being on the planet. So regardless of whether we have ailments or whether we were born with ailments, you're still miraculous. For us to be existing is just pure, wonderful magic. And so that is self-esteem. It's self-awareness. It's self-love. It's recognizing that the fact that I inhabit this body is something truly beautiful. So in the idea of who am I, that's where I like to start. Like, doesn't matter the bits and pieces that make up James. Fair enough. That's the next part of the conversation. But the initial part of the conversation is, wow, like, I mean, I exist. I've just been finishing another course, and all to do with anatomy and physiology. We have our lymphatic system, our respiratory system, our cardiovascular system. All of the organs in my body are all running around, whether I'm asleep, awake, whether I'm, eating dinner or whatever. They are working in ways that I, ironically, could never comprehend. It's hilarious to say it, really. It's doing it, but I can't comprehend it. Half the time I don't even know, right? So who am I? First of all, a miracle, a true, incredible, wonderful, unconditionally loving miracle, right? And that's just my body, okay? And then I'll stop for feedback from you guys. But in linking in with the body element is also nature outside. So inside me, there is an intelligence that is working tirelessly to make sure I'm healthy, strong, that I have the highest quality of experience possible. That's also reflected in nature, right? The plants that grow, the animals, certain insects prefer certain flowers, which need those insects in order for the flowers to feed certain animals, which keep the system working, right? It's a web of life, which is equally miraculous and beautiful and incredible. We may, unfortunately, have lost that web of life in a lot of ways. However, it's waiting, right? It's waiting for people to get soil on their hands again and to use their eyes to see what nature really wants. So that's my answer initially before we expanded, is who am I? First of all, a physical miracle, and I see my physical miracle mirrored out there in nature as well. Those two things that are undeniable truth. Doesn't matter who James is and what he's done and the things he's said and how he's behaved and what the bottom line for every human being, miracle, physical miracle. So yeah.
I fully agree to that. Sorry, Susie, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, no, I totally agree as well. Like, and then it's about getting beyond the, the roles, the responsibilities, the history, the stories. And that's why I find through the meditation that you can really go a little bit deeper and access that miracle. You know, when, like you just said, as simply put as how the systems in our body just are, you know, working within the rhythms of nature, of the moon cycles, the tidal rhythms, the seasonal rhythms, all of that. Like we're all, everything is like interconnected, but we get so sort of lost along the way. We forget, and I think we arrive here forgetting an awful lot of stuff, and we're kind of here to try to remember. But there's a lot going on, James, in the world. You know, we were talking about that, and you know, there's parts of the world that we thought we knew are beginning to really unravel, like, and so you're trying to hold your course, you know, in this kind of world as it is unfolding. What can you do? Like, how, you know, it's well and good for you and possibly me. We're in very nice, you know, locations close to nature and stuff, but what if you are really caught up in the Wild West world that's going on at the moment? You know, how do we stay connected to the miracle within? You know, have you any insights into that?
Yeah, I mean, the first insight is empathy and sympathy. You know, I mean, I've lived in towns, so I know palpably the difference between when you take a step out of your home and you can put your feet straight on grass and when you can't. You know, there is a distinct difference. However, the reason why it's nice to start with the foundation of the body being a miracle and nature being a miracle is because at least we know that the home that we are in and the home that we can live in is unconditional love. You know, it's like, again, whatever we believe about ourselves, because as you aptly put, Susie, you know, the stuff that's going on in the world, the stuff that we're exposed through school and, you know, magazines, and, you know, people who will judge themselves and compare themselves to others and therefore feel bad within, you know. So again, highlighting this very important question, who am I? You know, am I somebody who is uglier than someone else? Am I somebody who is, you know, XYZ? And so if we can meditate and quieten the mind to start to let go of some of those, you know, programs that might be less beneficial to us, like, for example, I'm ugly, or I'm not worth anything, or I can't be loved, or I'm difficult to love, or, you know, I'm incapable of this or that, etc., then at least we can sort of level the playing field. You know, just bring ourselves to a grounded place, and then from there we can start to analyze, right, what's the truth? This is in connection to who am I. The other big question, and the other sort of the sister or brother of this question, is what's the truth, right? And this is something I'm very, very passionate about, and it's a mixture of logic and intuition, a mixture of masculine and feminine. It's a mixture of, you know, strength and softness, and it's what's the truth. So, for example, if somebody feels, oh, I hate my life because I live in a town and a city and all this stuff is going on in the world and I can't do anything about it, and, you know, I've got 3 children to look after and I'm in debt, and I can't eat the food I'm going to eat, and I can't this and I can't that and I can't this and I can't that. So that state of being says, I am unfortunate, I have misfortune, I am poor. And there's nothing wrong with acknowledging that truth in the moment, and that's fine, because you've got to start somewhere, and it's better to start grounded than anything else. But once that's there, you know, okay, I don't have the money for this, you know, I'm struggling because I'm a single mother, a single father, XYZ. That's the truth in the moment. But then you go back to that element, well, what am I? Well, I'm a walking miracle. If my body is doing what it's doing by itself in such an outstandingly insane way, then, and I'm inside this thing, love you, I'm inside this thing, what am I capable of? What is possible? So it's, I'm really, I'm grateful for the title of this episode, because it really is it's a path of questioning. When I think about the path, so the Light of Albion being a path, it's really just a path of questioning. there's not particularly a quest to go and slay a dragon or climb a mountaintop. It can be as simple as if you're in, a city and you can't get out there in nature. It's simply a line of questioning. What am I? Who am I? What's the truth? And where can I go? If I'm a miracle, what's possible? And so, and I'll stop here and let dialogue. But when you ask, like, what brought us to Wales, well, it was acknowledging what we knew about where we're going. And that's the beauty of the miracles that have happened for us on this journey. It might have been a quiet period at the minute, but regardless, there's no denying that in direct correlation with the miracle that we are as a body and a being, the events were equally of that level. So anything is possible. It doesn't matter what we believe about who we are or what's going on in the world or life or where we find ourselves in the moment, anything is possible. And so the next part of that conversation is the development of the self, but I'll leave it there.
No, it's good the way you presented the deconstruction of who we think we are, and to find who we truly are. I know I read it somewhere. I can't remember who wrote this thing. Is that I am not who I think I am. I am who I think you think I am. So if we can't find who we truly are, we are always sitting in a vision of ourself seen from our eyes through the other people. So your idea of meditating and trying to find the source of who we are and how we fit within our environment, that will deconstruct from all the ideas of who we think we are. I'm not a son or a father or a brother or a mother or whatever it is, but I am who I am. I love that. Thank you for that. Susie, you have anything to add to it?
Yeah, like I feel like there's a lot going on, right? And it's easy to get kind of, I don't know, caught up in the whirlwind of what we're being fed. If we get caught into the media hype and the what's going on, and we can be so externally focused that it's very hard to do that self-inquiry. It's very hard to sit still and kind of find the way back, to the center of our being, to that awareness that is having the experience, like you said. We are all this kind of pure awareness, but we've just kind of, we're caught up in a lot of stuff often. And so I think what I really want to kind of know, like, okay, you can go and spend time in nature, go hiking or trekking on the mountain. You can, there's places we can go to find some quiet and to have some time, some solitude, and just to maybe let things settle in as you kind of reach in a bit deeper to see, okay, what is the potential here? Like what do I really, really want? Like what's ticking inside me? Like what makes my heart, what is my heart's desire? Sort of questions, things like that. And kind of finding, I think a community is part of that. Sometimes we go on the solo quest, but I do believe that we're not all here to be off on individual kind of missions. We're part of a bigger picture. We're interconnected, part of a community. And, I know that's part of your vision, James, with the Light of Albion. It's like to create these sort of, sovereignty for each person, but then doing it together as a group, as a collective. So do you find that when you stopped and you found your way to Snowdonia, for example, that other people have found their way there too? Like did the group start to form, have you formed alliances, gathered with other similar people?
Yeah, there's a lot going on in Wales as it stands. People have been doing projects here for years. As for where we are, it's interesting because it touches on a little, a part of this journey with me, where when I left the last place after I hadn't led either of them. So decisions were made, it's always a tricky one, because we talk about humility and, you know, being a part of collectives, but then there are times when you recognize that decisions are made which dismantle what is being created, and that's exactly what happened. So the two places we went to, there was no stability, you know, and so we went to other individuals' sort of properties and things like that. So there wasn't enough for me to be able to be like, look, you know, I can observe this happening and something needs to be done about it. Tried to, but didn't work. So when we came here, the big thing we said was, right, that's enough now. You know, we need to be able to find the doorway to either the money or land coming through with no strings attached, so that we can just get on with it. You know, because both projects, that's exactly what I've done. The minute that I've stepped foot on that land, I've, you know, liaised with those individuals and got the go ahead and got the green light and been like, right, let's get to work. That's exactly what we did. And there was infrastructure that was built. But what happened is because there was no solid direction, there was no unified, congruent agreement upon where that direction was going, it just fell apart, you know. And so here in Wales at the minute, we're living in a beautiful little cottage by the mountain, but we're still waiting for the door to open, you know. And so we're waiting for, there's been synchronicities. I don't know whether I feel like I want to share it. Maybe I will. I don't know whether I feel like I want to share it here, but there's been synchronicities for me to say that something is going to happen. And I wouldn't even be able to, the things that happened to prove that is wild. But if I was to say it out loud, people would say this dude's lost his marbles. So, which is just, it's fine. I totally get it. If, you know, from a human perspective, I totally agree. However, I know what I know is going to happen. And so we're following that journey. But to answer your question, there are people doing beautiful things here. And yes, that is what we're about. You know, there's, to me and to us and to the proof of people. So for those watching, if you can see the video here, if you're on audio, then I'm showing a book called Permaculture, a designer's manual. A beautiful company started reproducing them. So this is a new copy, but they were quite expensive otherwise.
Can you give the author there? Because you didn't give the author, James.
Apologies, yes. Bill Mollison. So if you can see the video, it's Bill Mollison. Yeah. It's a Bible of nature. It's absolutely fantastic, and connected with my other two forest gardening books, which I won't get now, edible forest gardening books. They hold the keys to the future of every human being on this planet. And so when we think about living in communities or villages and being reconnected with the people around us, working together to create a system or a web of cooperation which works, right? So coming back to, we have our body, which is a miracle. We have nature, which is a miracle. Nature, a forest, which doesn't need any tending to, it lives by itself. That's what the whole point is. Whatever we believe about God, creator, universe, whatever that is, there is a system out there in the roots of the trees, in the mycelium, in the plants, in the animals, that is designed to work so that we can relax, right? That's exactly what it's here for. So that we have water, food, clean air, a beautiful environments, the scents of the flowers, the wonderful interactions with the animals. It exists so that human beings can have the most wonderful and beautiful experience on the planet. So bringing that into families, individuals and families, they have their own little plot of land, which they live in harmony with, and then villages as well, right? To me, it's the only future. And I say that, I never like to make statements like that, but truthfully, if somebody could come to me and say, I have a better option, then I would tip my hat and say, fair enough. But right now, that, by the demonstration of nature, is the one most beautiful and perfect representation of how we can live. That means that, yeah, we might have a purpose outside of living in a forest garden, making clothes, you know, beautiful instruments, telling stories, raising children, whatever it is, crafts, tours, music. But the foundational baseline, just like I'm a miracle, nature's a miracle, the other foundation is I can have everything that I need on the basic level to the highest possible quality that anybody could imagine. You know, the most beautiful vegetables, fruits, the herbs, the leaves, the flowers, the medicines. Not that we'd need it. So, apologies, I don't want to go on too much, but just in connection to that, what brought us here to Wales is a development of character of James, of Lucas, and Annie, or anybody else who's on this journey with us, so that we can fulfill the task of restoring the garden that this world always should have been. That's really my who am I at the minute anyway. I don't know if I went off topic there, but I'll stop there.
Well, it's good to bring in, you know, that passion. It is all about kind of an ecosystem becoming more self-sufficient and like nature taking care of us, like you said, like it's all there. And it's really, really important. Like I think like there has to be some sort of hope, you know? So like if we were going to inspire hope in this conversation, you know, how do we do that? You know, how do we inspire others to find their way, or is it to meditate? Is it to spend more time in nature? Is it to, I don't know, make a community?
Ramsey, I could go hardcore on this one, so I'll let you say.
Go ahead. I'm not going to stop you. Go ahead.
Whenever that gets asked to me, it's like a sun just ignites in my solar plexus and my belly and my heart, and I feel all of the energy coming up. Susie, remind me, I'm so flabbergasted by all the energy that come up. I forgot the part that you said. Say that to me again.
Well, it's just kind of inspiring hope, you know. So like, is it nature? Is it, you know, self-inquiry, meditation? Is it finding community? You know, how can we inspire hope here in this crazy world?
So the Light of Albion was born under the philosophy of restoring everything that is good and decent. Okay, so the stories of our past, and out of respect for every human being watching this, whether fictional or not, people gravitate towards them because there is an element of goodness and decency and quality about these stories. You know, about the Essenes, or Jesus, or Yeshua, or Mary, or, you know, Akhenaten, or these stories of goodness, you know, where people were, you know, homeless and they were cared for, they were loved, they were nurtured, they were saying it's okay, you know, whatever you've done, you're loved. We see you as pure as you can be seen, right? We're living in a human experience. Like there is a right and wrong. You know, there is a rightful way to be and a wrongful way to be. You know, if you go and inflict injury upon another for absolutely no reason at all, it's a wrongful way of doing. It's, you know, it's not a pleasant thing to do. So we live in a world where there is a guideline, you know, and so we gravitate towards stories that, and people and characters that are just wholesome and good. Okay, like King Arthur and the Round Table, and the Lady of Sovereignty, and, you know, Princess Diana, or you know, I know people gravitate towards people like Keanu Reeves or Michael Jackson. You know, people had a lot of love and time for him because he seemed like a really good and decent person. Like I never met the guy, I can't say, but he seemed, this is the point, like the representation of goodness is what just drew people to these individuals, to express their love and gratitude to them. And so to inspire hope when the world looks like it's just eating itself alive, to inspire hope, like, yeah, there might be stuff that's happened in the world that's just beyond comprehension, just rancid, awful stuff. However, if you exist and your intention is to be good, to love, to find your way so that you can be of service to others, to you know, look after yourself, smell the beautiful roses in your garden, but then to go and clothe another person, or feed another person, or give to another person, then that is all you need. You know, if in an entire 7-day period the only thing you do is go and have a chat with a homeless person who's sat outside a store, that could be the only thing, but it could mean the world to that person and to anybody who sees it. You know, like, to me, the smallest acts of goodness, the smallest acts of quality kindness emanate more in this world than anything else. You know, I'm not even saying that in a cutesy way. I mean, really, if you can, whether you're going through the most horrendous hardship, the most difficult situations in your life, you know, if you're in court with your ex-partner because of other stuff, and you know, you're being bombarded, you're overloaded, okay, you're piled on with all the challenges, bills are coming through, you've got debts coming through, you've got people, you know, like falling out, and just life is chaos. If you can just take a moment, find the quiet, remember what you are and who you are, know that out there is an unconditional essence, and then come back and say, right, what do I do? You know, there's a beautiful quote from a guy who passed away who I love tremendously. His name's Greg Plitt. And one thing that he always said that always resonated with me is, what do you do when people aren't looking? You know, when there's no eyes on you, when there's no spotlight, what do you do when people aren't looking? And that, truthfully, is how I choose to, or I try to live my life. You know, whenever I'm in a place just by myself, you know, it doesn't matter if there's an all benevolent being watching my actions and judging me, whatever. It doesn't matter what the outside mechanism is. It's for me. That's for me. You know, what do we do when people aren't looking? So if you're looking for hope, look in the mirror. Okay, it's the only place that you'll truthfully get it. You know, you might be irate, angry, upset, you might be, you know, filled with hatred even, you know, but if you know in your heart that your intention is higher than that, better than that, that's all you need, right? Whatever this story plays out in the world, however it continues, the only thing, to me at least, know your intention. Who am I? Who am I? Good, loving, decent person? That's all of the light, as far as I'm concerned, that you need in the world. So, yeah, that's my little page on that one.
That is beautiful. That is awesome. So everything stems from who we are. How come, I guess, based on what you've been saying, is that we kind of disconnect from ourselves and just get wrapped into the energies of the world, and we forget who we are. So you mentioned a couple of times that, you know, you open your door and there's a mountain and stuff like that. But for people who lives in the cities where it's overcrowded, if you're in London, it's like horrendous. But there are people who live in cities and don't have the luxury of just connecting to nature directly. Do you have any advice for that, or for them?
Yeah, this one is actually the conversation I had very recently, and it's little steps, right? Like, the best, out of everything that we've discussed here, the best thing that we can do is seek to give ourselves the things and environments that help to remove some of the, how do I say this, like, nicely, remove some of the muck, the smog. You know, if we, like, let's just visualize a pond, right? If you want to see the water, then there's things you've got to do in order to make that water clearer. You might put some filtering plants in, you might take out a bit of water and replace it with some fresh water, or let it rain. So if you're living in a city, and again, my heart goes out to you, there are things you can do. Now, meditation is just the universal practice regardless, because you can go into your meditation through enough discipline and start to visualize and feel locations outside the city. You know, you're going to open your eyes and there's going to be a city there for a period of time, that eventually there might not be, but for a period of time there'll be the city there. But if that isn't enough and you sit there and you say, well, yeah, that's cute, James, but I'm still sick of being in the city and I'm fed up, it's loud. You know, you say about meditation, but my next door neighbor's playing, you know, heavy metal music for 14 hours a day, so good luck. Well, I've got ironically, over there on the bed, I've got ear defenders. Yeah, people are doing things out of your control. There's a solution. Okay, so that's my main answer, right? If there are things that you feel are out of your control, I bet there's a solution, or there's a middle ground before the solution, right? So if I know that I need silence because it just makes things easier, I got noise cancelling headphones. If I know that the tap water that I used to drink many, many, many years ago wasn't adequate, then I've either got to go bottled water or get a distiller. You know, if I know that the food isn't serving me, but I'm struggling with, you know, diet because I can't afford organic food, or the organic food's not even organic, then maybe you can explore fasting, right? So you put more of your money into fruits and vegetables and supplements that might give you a boost, and then you don't eat for 24, 36 hours, right? So you're keeping your bill down, practicing discipline, keeping your system clear, but it's little improvements, right? Little improvements. The answer to that question is an hours long, truthfully, and it's unique to every individual. But what I would suggest is just try to find little middle grounds and solutions, right? Like try to, if you have something you're unhappy with, try to find a middle ground or solution, or endure until you can. You know, if you just you trust yourself, the answers will come. Right? That is a absolute fact, a complete fact. And sorry, last thing. If it's a problem, hidden within that problem could be a greater benefit for yourself and others if you can come up with a solution, right? You're living in the city, there's no organic food because, you know, the urban farms are like scattered over there, or, you know, the urban vegetable farms, they're not very close. Maybe you can start your own. Maybe some of the skyscrapers have got roof space, you know, maybe they want to be more green, and you can be like, look, I'll take a group of 10 people, you know, maybe kids or whatever from the local school, we'll go up onto the roof, start planting vegetables on your roof. Yeah, give you good publicity. We get to take 50% of the veg. There's solutions, you know, there really is. Or have a look for houses in the countryside and trust you'll find it. Get out of there. That's the other one.
Work remotely. Go for remote. Yeah. Sorry. You know, there's always a solution. There's always, you know, and I think it's about finding that stillness and the quiet to be able to just kind of find the question and then, you know, expect the answer, like you know, see, I think when we plant the question like a seed, the answer will meet that question, and it could just come in this aha moment when you're, you know, flicking through a magazine in a waiting room, or listening to somebody or talking to somebody. It usually will find its way once you've asked the question. But I have another one to add to that. It's my passion at the moment. For the last couple of years, I've been really studying the dream yoga, and it's profound. Like it goes back like 2,500 years ago from the Tibetan Buddhist tradition. But really, what I'm discovering is that in the sleep state is so much potentiality for kind of answering some of those questions, you know, for planting those seeds. And like you said, you can close your eyes and go on a journey, and you can go into, you know, far off landscapes or other dimensions within our own consciousness. And that's been really something special. So I know that from the Western tradition, it's more like lucid dreaming, and from the more Eastern tradition, it's dream yoga. But I've been looking at both, and it's somewhere between the two, you know, I think is where a lot of people could kind of enter. It's an entry point. And again, it's like as you go to sleep, just bringing in the question, you know, whatever it is troubling you or whatever you're really trying to find, you know, find an answer to. Bring it in as you go to sleep, you know, put it in there, and then you just disconnect and allow the answer again to meet that question. And sometimes people are having like prophetic dreams, or I'd be curious to know, have you ever had information or insights or guidance, perhaps, James, coming through your dream state?
I have had, so it's interesting, just like you, Susie, that is really one of the topics of study and practice that I would say it's interesting. I feel like there's, you know, like I'm a new student to it. It's very interesting. It's something that I've had dreams over the past couple of years that have been lucid dreams, not as many. So I've had some dreams in my life that have been, I know I've been there, but they're very few and far between. It's very interesting to me. You know, I hear that there are people who have been able to find complete control in their dreams, and I have to admit, I'm not one of those people yet. You know, they can really just, you know, if there's a chair in the dream, they can consciously grab a hold of it. You know, I don't seem to have that capability yet, but I have had dreams that have mostly with animals that have just been, every time I feel in the dream what I feel when it happens in real life. So I was sleeping on this rooftop, so outside this window there's a flat roof, and I was sleeping out there, and Annie and I stayed out under the stars one night last year. Woke up in the morning and we were talking about all the miraculous things that have happened to me, and a red squirrel jumps down from this tree onto the wooden decking, and I won't swear, but there was a multitude of swear words that came out of my mouth in awe at what I was looking at. Never in my life had I seen a red squirrel until this moment, and it was just there, and I'm like, what? I couldn't, it just completely disarmed me. And I managed to get a video with it, which I normally wouldn't do, but I was so happy I did. And those magical moments have been happening in the dream state, and it just tells me I'm on the right track. You know, it tells me just, you're all right, keep going. This is the magic of life. Don't forget, because you know, over this past couple of years, I've not been. It's been hard. You know, it really has been a challenge. I've done a lot of feeling like I've lost myself, but coming, you know, on this verge of discovery. It's been a very curious journey. So my answer, plain and simple, is I've had many wonderful experiences of animals in connection with what I feel and I know is coming, but probably not as much as some dream practitioners out there. So
again, it's like any thing, it's a practice. You know, you just have to put it to work for you. That's what I say to everybody. You know, you don't have to become an expert for it to work. Actually, I really want to inspire you to, you know, just bring some of it in and trust, I think, is the other part of that. It's the other side of it, is to trust that the answer will meet that question. Like it really does. I've noticed a lot of people, you know, they're able to meet their darkest fear or their greatest nightmare in the dream state. You know, often we wake ourselves up when we're in the nightmare kind of scenario when we're sleeping and dreaming. And so now what you do is you might wake up from that, but you consciously re-enter the dream, you know, with this kind of fearlessness and this kind of sense of power within yourself. And whatever plays out in the dreamscape starts to show up in the waking state, let's say. It's like we can go in and we can, you know, become the Knights of the Round Table, or the, you know, it can be mythology, it can be coming from, you know, total fantasy or imagination or whatever. But it's like the dreamscape can be a practice ground for becoming fearless, becoming sovereign, becoming who you truly are, you know. And it's really about kind of empowering ourselves, you know, in that stage. So it's really, you know, obviously I'm passionate about it right now because I've been teaching it, and we're coming up to our last session. We've been doing it for the last 3 months, and nice. Just seeing just how people have come along. People who couldn't remember one dream, you know what I mean? Who were worried that they'd be waking up even more in the middle of the night. But there's so many beautiful practices there to help people, you know, sleep really well, rest that body, get the good night sleep, and still have these incredible experiences along the way. So I'll stop ranting now, Ramsey. I'll give you a chance there. You know me, when I get on the dream yoga, I'm like,
I vouch to that. It's phenomenal. Seriously, it is phenomenal. And the experience that I had from just a few tips that Susie gave me were intense. Like I really got out of the dream, because I woke up and I go, oh my God, I didn't finish my task. There's a task I had to finish. So I went back to sleep 2 minutes later, or whatever the time was, and I ended up finishing the task that I was in the middle of, finalized it, And a week or 10 days later, everything just opened up as per the dream. It was phenomenal. So I'll stop talking now about the dreams. One thing you mentioned, and you don't need to answer, but you said that you had challenges, and it was a good thing from a point of view that even if you go live in the forest and you're connected with nature, and you don't have the hustle and bustle of big cities and our environment, you still do face challenges, correct? But from our discussions that we have is that you're always upbeat. Does that come from the who I am, or it's just you happy-go-lucky all the time? Although we do have our moments, and I'm sorry in the corner, but it's good for people to understand, like, it's not always rosy somewhere else.
Yeah.
It's you who changed, so you are able to manage the ups and downs of life.
First of all, I really appreciate the question, and it is a beautiful question. You're right, and this is the big overarching point of what I'm about to say is forgiveness. That really what it is. It's forgiveness, and it's knowing who you are. So in regards to challenges, I know within myself that I am living a story. This is a book, as every day I wake up is a page that's being burned. What happens and through that day, what I do through that day, what I experience through that day is written on that page. And so it doesn't matter where I find myself, and it doesn't mean that I'm always, legs crossed, thumbs and index fingers pressed and on floating on the mountain. Sometimes it's a really dense experience. I'm in the thick of it. And so my guiding light, the foundational principles of my life, is knowing that I choose in my deepest heart to be as good as I possibly can, to be a good and decent, kind, loving person. Now, we get challenged. We're human beings, and we're challenged so that we can garner greater perspective. If you're put in a situation that is constant stress, or put in a situation that is difficult, challenging, it's coming at you constantly, so you can't, you are in the corner, so it's coming at you, and the only thing you can do is face it. Now, for people to be stoic, enlightened masters when you're facing, just give an example, somebody's going through a divorce and things have got sour between their partner, and it's bitter, it's vile, there's children involved, there's anger, there's a lot of, I'm hearing a lot of that going on at the minute. In those situations, for you to sit there and be like, oh, I'm great, I'm having a great time, I'm everything I say and think about everybody in my life is pure love. Probably it's not. Yeah. So you can be sat there and thinking, you insert whatever words are appropriate for that individual, but it doesn't matter. Of course, we seek to live by a code of goodness and decency. So if you act evilly upon that, well, yeah, but if your intention is, look, I'm being bombarded, but I'm still, I am on a path to seek to be a good, decent, loving person. That is what helps me when those challenges come along. You could live in a forest and you'll always find them because we're experiencing it. This consciousness that's in me, spirit, soul that's in me, this thinking brain that's in me, whichever resonates with people, it's got direction for a future, so it's going somewhere. It's seeking to do something. It's seeking to evolve, to expand. And so in that process, it would be, this is an interesting point, and then I'll stop. It would be interesting to think that it would just be an easy silver spoon-fed road. I don't think that's what it's about. And as much as we can make our life easier so that we can expand and evolve in a more serene way, because I like that word you used, Susie, serenity. That's one that I really, that's a beautiful way to put it. For us to evolve and expand in a serene way, maybe that's what I think we're going. But right now, it gets dense. So the one thing is forgiving myself. If I have a moment where I get frustrated, human. If I have a moment where I get upset, or I find myself, if something's coming at me and I feel it's injustice, and I'm like, forgiveness, and then ask myself, right, how do I then respond to this in the future? What's the solution? If I can't embody complete stoicism, what needs to be done? So it's a process, and we're all doing the best we can, is my convoluted answer.
That's a good answer. Susie, do you have anything? I saw, well, maybe I can't see.
Oh no, sorry. I'm just it's a journey, and it's not rainbows and unicorns, and there's challenges, and there's definitely bumps along the road for sure. But without them, we wouldn't get where we're really going. You know what I mean? It's not about kind of sequestering ourselves in this kind of cozy little hamlet and never coming out again. You know what I mean? It's life, and we're here to evolve. We're on a journey, and I think for me personally, anyway, I can only speak for myself, but it's about, finding community, finding tools, finding practices, to help me kind of grow and evolve and become, back to the question, the eternal question, who am I? I suppose, really learning kind of the answer to that question is really your true nature, the awareness that is having this experience. And like, even going back to the dream yoga, it even goes back to that although I might be asleep in bed or dreaming, that awareness is still ever present. You know what I mean? The witnessing awareness never goes to sleep. It's aware while you're having the dream. It's aware while you're in deep sleep, and there's very little happening in the brain. And it's aware, and it's there when you wake up again. So, as my website says, wake up little Susie is all about really waking up to who you truly are. And it's just not all rainbows and unicorns and spiritual bypassing. It's not that at all. It's snotty, and it's messy, and there are fights, and there are lawyers, and there's courts, and there's, it's all of the above. But I think the key is really, how do you handle yourself? Like, how are you able to, can you get back to your center? Don't get lost in it. Don't get swept up by everything that happens or comes your way, isn't it?
Sorry, Ramsey, I have a little thought on that too. Did you
go ahead?
No, I totally agree with you, Susie. And I love what you mentioned about it is just understanding that awareness. I wake up as James. That's something I say to myself often. I wake up as James, I go to sleep as James, but I'm aware of that happening. And so ironically, the other day, doesn't matter where you go, right? I might live in a very secluded place in Wales, but a gentleman, I was sat in my car, we were going out, and he come up to me and he tapped on the window, and I wound the window down. He says, "I really want to apologize. I scraped across your car the other day." And so I got out and I checked the car, and it's a bit of a dent, it's a bit of a scrape. And he says, "Look, I can exchange details with you. I can pay for it. Don't worry about it." And I looked at him and just went up to him and I shook his hand. I was like, "Don't worry about it." Yeah. And so it was like, and then I sat back in the car, and then you analyze. And you're like, right, was I being good and decent? Was I allowing this gentleman to save face and kind of just brushing over? It's not that terrible. Yeah, it's not like my bumper's hanging off. It's not the worst thing in the world. I appreciate and love my car. It gets me places, but it's also a car. It's like, is he all right? Am I all right? If the answer to that is yes, then whatever. It's all good. So another person might find that they need to empower themselves in confidence and be like, yeah, okay, I'll take your details. And I appreciate you offering to pay. That would help me out. Yeah. So it's just, whatever we choose. Oh, this is a big one, and probably don't have the time to go into this one, but whatever we choose on a very, very, very higher dimensional perspective, it's okay. you know, and the whole point is the beautiful quote from The Matrix. I have to know, I adore those films. I don't know how people feel about them, but I personally, they've done a lot for me. Is when the Oracle turns to Neo and says, "You haven't come here to make the choice. You've come here to understand why you've made the choice." And I like that. You know, it's not to say we don't have free will to choose, but because we come here with a template of who we are, right? We said, I'm going to experience this, this, and this, and this, and this, and it's going to lead me here, right? So I experienced the people who I had to make me feel the way I did, to decide what I did and didn't want in my life. And so ultimately, those were kind of pre-written. You know, there's a bit of a predestined thing with some things. But I've come here to understand, why did I decide that? You know, what does it mean? What does it look like? And when you do that from a place of forgetfulness, just like the beautiful innocence of children, you know, you ask a child something and they come out with something and you're sat there and you're like, whoa, hang on a minute. What's going on here? Am I having a conversation with the divine? You know, like, where did that come from, right? When you have, I mean, don't have children yet, so I haven't had those experiences, but I know many people who have. You know, they spoke to their children and they're like, man, like this a little Buddha talking to me here from deep enlightenment. So, you know, it's like we are going through this path and we're analyzing it from really a place of innocence. You know, it doesn't matter like what or who we are. I think the baseline is this level of forgetful innocence. And so there's stuff that happens to them, you know, when you find, sorry, just to be clear, when you find, once you've had those experiences and you start to analyze them, you know, you're like, oh, okay, that made me feel that way, and that other person responded in this way, and that felt good. All right, let's keep that little, you know, chapter in the book, and we can return to it. So anyway, yeah.
Do you know what I was thinking of when you were saying that is, you know, I do my Monday call, and the American population on my call were telling me that I was talking about Saint Bridget, you know, it was her feast day in Ireland, and they were saying it's Groundhog Day in America. And I didn't really know what that meant, you know, and they were explaining it to me, and I was thinking of the Bill Murray film, you know, where every day he's like, you know, there's the puddle, and it's kind of like, you know, sometimes it takes us a few rounds of the carousel to figure out how to get off it. You know what I mean? We can get dizzy, we can get kind of flustered and blown away by things. But like with that kind of awareness, with that inquiry, we can start to go, okay, I have an alternative, you know, way of responding to the situation now. Like you with the guy in the car, you know?
Yeah.
I had a car experience like that recently, actually. I was stopped in traffic on a hill, you know, so all you had to do was kind of take your foot off the brake and just roll a little bit downhill, you know, it wasn't driving fast or anything. The window was open. I was listening to a book. I was totally staring out the window. Didn't realize the car in front of me had stopped. So I hit the back of the car, like not good. But, you know, the woman was so nice. Like,
yeah.
There was more damage to my grill like than hers. Well, hers was just a bigger car, whatever. But I really noticed how kind she was. And I said, no, look, exchange information. We didn't want to hold up the traffic, you know, because it started finally moving into this town. But I said, I'll text you the next day. And I messaged her and I said, hey, look, this is me. I'm here. If you need anything, you know, for your car, you need to take it somewhere. And she wrote back and she's like, hey, it's grand, you know. My husband said, don't worry about it. And you really feel it when that happens, don't you? You just feel like, yeah, it's not so bad a place, you know. There's good people out there. Because that could have gone two ways, you know what I mean? I was totally mindless, I must admit that moment. You know, listening to the book.
Yeah. Sorry, Ramsey. Again, I'm very passionate about this one. Can I do a little?
Yeah. Go ahead.
So, that's and it's the way it makes you feel, right? That's the beauty of it. You know, it's the way it makes you feel. Like that lady, yeah, she, you know, like many people, she could have come out all guns blazing, you know, and you know, like that's a choice, you know, and fair enough, whatever. But to choose to come out and be like, are you okay? That's different. You know, because you never know, like some people may have been chastised their entire life for every little wrongdoing. every little thing they've done, every, you know, and the minute that they slightly bump the car, they're like, oh my goodness, war's going to kick off. You know, I've experienced this from people before, you know, when they really have that anxiety of like they do something wrong, and it's like a collapse. And so when you turn around and be like, hey, it's all right, don't worry about it, that right there is, I feel there's gold in that, you know, real true gold and beauty. And the last little thing that came to me, that I feel like is like a really important thing to bring forward, is taking absolute personal stock and accountability. You know, what this allows you to do, this observation, you know, who am I, how am I living, what's my story. It takes things from appearing like they're happening to you and out of your control to happening for you. You know, like these 2 years, like I've been seeking to manifest. That word I'm starting to detach slightly from as well. It's starting to not feel right to me. I don't know what my thoughts on that yet. I'm still in contemplation with it, but I've been seeking to bring forward an event that is in alignment with the door opening to a new chapter. And it's kept me waiting and waiting and waiting. And I know in my heart what I know. I know what my intuition is. It is solid. It's like the roots of an oak tree. It's there, and I feel it in my heart as I say this. It's there. It's firm and strong, and I know that the door's going to open. But it has just gone on and on and on, and there's no guarantee on third dimensional perspective. The only thing I know is what I know in my heart and bones, and so that gets hard. You know, it gets really hard, but knowing that everything's okay and that I take personal responsibility and I'll always be where I need to be makes it easier. So, yeah.
Beautiful. So, James, we almost passed the hour, and we can talk to you for another 2. But do you have any programs or anything that you're working on that you'd like to invite people to?
Yeah, so it's literally in the past couple of days opened up. I'm working with a gentleman called Peter, and he has a school community called Checkmate the Matrix, which it's a cool title. I really like it. You know, it's I've understood the mechanics of this world for a while, and so I've teamed up with him. We're seeking to work together. I'm going to be doing a classroom in there all about living off the land, and exploring that side of sovereignty, because really the overarching work that he's doing is sovereignty, you know, personal accountability and living life free, you know, and what that for everybody, you know, this planet can only be ethical. The definition of ethics is if everybody has access to the same thing, and until that's the case, the word ethics is nonsensical. It doesn't make any sense. So I'm teaming up with him. I'm going to be involved in there, and it's all to do with also helping to get out of debt, so out of fines, bailiffs, understanding the true, from a very third dimensional government practical way, who we are as people. You know, so in the question, who am I, the eternal question, there's the spiritual side, there's the physical side, the mental and emotional side, and then there's the pragmatics of everyday life. And that's kind of what I'm venturing down at the minute, you know. So if people are feeling swamped with, you know, debts, if they don't know how to get themselves out of the situation they're in, finances, bills, etc., then there are ways, you know. And I'm very grateful that I've done some of these things myself, and it works. You know, this is a big part of this future that we're talking about. You know, we all have to know the systems that we have been put within, you know, and how they work and how we can use that system to our benefit. You know, so that's what I've been working on. You know, it's still in alignment with sovereignty in the land. That's the 2 things that it's about.
Where would they find that? Is it on your website, the Light of Albion?
So I'll probably put it on there once we've fully opened up the door,
Okay.
and I can give a link at some point, because that will be, you know, it will. I'll work with Peter and things of that, but I don't have it yet. Literally, we've only just talked about it a day and a half ago. So, but maybe in a few days I can send it over, etc. But if anything, it's called Checkmate the Matrix, and if you want to know later on down the line, then follow me on social media. I'll start talking about it and introducing people. So yeah.
You can find James on Facebook, james.v.malins. And I'm sorry, I didn't get the other links that you gave me, but they are under the video, right under the video. You'll find them all. There are 4 or 5 of them. And also you can find them on the lightofalbion.com, which is this one. James, it's always wonderful to chat with you. I always have a blast, and I leave this podcast, thinking about the discussions that we've had for a while. So we really thank you for joining us again, and hopefully we can see you again on the podcast, see the progressions and how far you went and all of that. So thank you very much. Susie, you have any last word?
Yeah, just deep gratitude, James, that you're kind of, you're on this incredible journey since the very first time we bumped into each other way back now. It feels like we've known each other for years, but it's lovely to watch you on your own, everybody on their own unique path, but especially yours. And I love the courage that you bring to it and your commitment, and, really does just inspire people. So best of luck with everything, and checkmate the Matrix. I look forward to hearing more about what that is. So thank you from my heart to yours, from my little corner of Ireland to your little corner of Wales. And Ramsey, best of luck to you too. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks,
all.
Guys. All my love.
Same here. Stay with us.